Thursday 14th p.m. Had a gentle breeze at south-east by east. Sent the master with 2 boats, as well to sound ahead of the ship as to look out for a harbour where we could repair our defects, and put the ship on a proper trim, both of which she now very much wanted. At 3, saw an opening that had the appearance of a harbour. Stood off and on while the boats were examining it, who found that there was not a sufficient depth of water for the ship. By this time it was almost sunset, and seeing many shoals about us, we anchored in 4 fathoms, about 2 miles from the shore, the mainland extending from north half east to south by east half east. At 8 o'clock, the pinnace, in which was one of the mates, returned on board, and reported that they had found a good harbour, about 2 leagues to leeward. In consequence of this information, we at 6 a.m. weighed and run down to it, first sending 2 boats ahead to lay upon the shoals that lay in our way. And notwithstanding this precaution, we were once in 3 fathoms with the ship. Having passed these shoals, the boats were sent to lay in the channel leading into the harbour. By this time it begun to blow in so much that the ship would not work, having missed stays twice. And being entangled among shoals, I was afraid of being drove to leeward before the boats could place themselves, and therefore anchored in 4 fathoms about a mile from the shore, and then made the signal for the boats to come on board, after which I went myself and buoyed the channel, which I found very narrow, and the harbour much smaller than I had been told, but very convenient for our purpose. At noon, latitude observed 15 degrees 26 minutes south. Note, this day I restored Mr. Magra to his duty, as I did not find him guilty of the crimes laid to his charge. Friday 15th. A fresh gale at south-east and cloudy weather, attended with showers of rain. In the night, as it blowed too fresh to break the ship loose to run into the harbour, we got down the topgallant yards, unbent the mainsail and some of the small sails, got down the fore topgallant mast, and the jib boom and spritsail yard in, intending to lighten the ship forward as much as possible, in order to lay her ashore to come at the leak. Saturday 16th. Strong gales at south-east and cloudy hazy weather with showers of rain. At 6 o'clock in the a.m. it moderated a little, and we hove short, intending to get under sail, but was obliged to desist and veer away again. Some people were seen ashore today. Sunday 17th. Most part strong gales at south-east, with some heavy showers of rain in the p.m. At 6 a.m., being pretty moderate, we weighed and run into the harbour, in doing of which we run the ship ashore twice. The first time she went off without much trouble, but the second time she stuck fast. But this was of no consequence any farther than giving us a little trouble, and was no more than what I expected, as we had the wind. While the ship lay fast, we got down the foreyard, foretopmast, booms, etc. overboard, and made a raft of them alongside. Monday 18th. Fresh gales and cloudy, with showers of rain. At 1 p.m. the ship floated, and we warped her into the harbour, and moored her alongside of a steep beach on the south side. Got the anchors, cables, and all the hawsers ashore. In the a.m. made a stage from the ship to the shore, erected 2 tents, one for the sick and the other for the stores and provisions. Landed all the empty casks and part of the provisions. and sent a boat to haul the seine, which returned without success. Tuesday 19th. Fresh gales at south-east and cloudy weather, with frequent showers of rain. P.M. Landed all the provisions and part of the stores. Got the sick ashore, which amounted at this time to 8 or 9, afflicted with different disorders, but none very dangerously ill. This afternoon I went upon one of the highest hills over the harbour, from which I had a perfect view of the inlet or river and adjacent country, which afforded but a very indifferent prospect. The lowlands near the river is all overrun with mangroves, among which the salt water flows every tide, and the high land appeared to be barren and stony. A.M. got the 4 remaining guns out of the hold, and mounted them on the quarter-deck. Got a spare anchor and stock ashore, and the remaining part of the stores and ballast that were in the hold. Set up the forge, and set the armourer and his mate to work to make nails, etc., to repair the ship. Wednesday 20th. Winds at south-east, a fresh breeze. Fore and middle parts rainy, the latter fair. This day got out all the officers' stores and the ground tier of water, having now nothing in the fore and main hold but the coals and a little stone ballast. Thursday 21st. P.M. Landed the powder, got out the stone ballast, wood, etc., which brought the ship's draught of water to 8 feet 10 inches forward and 13 feet abaft. This, I thought, by trimming the coals aft, would be sufficient, as I find the tides will rise and fall upon a perpendicular 8 feet at spring tides. But after the coals was trimmed away from over the leak, we could hear the water come gushing in, a little abaft the foremast, about 3 feet from her keel. This determined me to clear the hold entirely. Accordingly, very early in the morning, we went to work to get out the coals, which was employment for all hands. Friday 22nd. Winds at south-east, fair weather. At 4 p.m, having got out most of the coals, cast loose the ship's moorings, and warped her a little higher up the harbour, to a place I had pitched upon to lay her ashore to stop the leak. Draught of water, forward 7 feet 9 inches, and abaft 13 feet 6 inches. At 8, being high water, hauled her bow close ashore, but kept her stern afloat, because I was afraid of neaping her, and yet it was necessary to lay the whole of her as near the ground as possible. At 2 a.m. the tide left her, which gave us an opportunity to examine the leak, which we found to be at her floor heads, a little before the starboard forechains. Here the rocks had made their way through 4 planks, quite to and even into the timbers, and wounded 3 more. The manner these planks were damaged, or cut out, as I may say, is hardly credible. Scarce a splinter was to be seen, but the whole was cut as if it had been done by the hands of man with a blunt-edged tool. Fortunately for us, the timbers in this place were very close, otherwise it would have been impossible to have saved the ship, and even as it was, it appeared very extraordinary that she made no more water than what she did. A large piece of coral rock was sticking in one hole, and several pieces of the fothering, small stones, etc., had made its way in, and lodged between the timbers, which had stopped the water from forcing its way in great quantities. Part of the sheathing was gone from under the larboard bow, part of the false keel was gone, and the remainder in such a shattered condition that we should be much better off if it was gone also. Her forefoot and some part of her main keel was also damaged, but not materially. What damage she may have received abaft we could not see, but believe not much, as the ship makes but little water, while the tide keeps below the leak forward. At 9 the carpenters went to work upon the ship, while the armourers were busy making bolts, nails, etc.